Hello and welcome to NOV Live. I'm Michael Gaines and glad you're joining us today as we continue our conversations, bringing you experts and expert perspectives on the impact that the energy industry is having on our world. And we're glad to be able to have a conversation today where we set sail and talk about offshore options and technologies and solutions for the energy industry. So it will certainly be a great conversation today. And we have a great guest that has joined us. So we certainly want you to be able to be a part of that. So before we dive into our conversation on offshore solutions, I want to bring in Shelby Dumaine to talk about how you can go along this journey of a conversation with us today and be a part of today's show. Hey, Shelby, good to see you.
Hey, Michael, it's great to see you as well. And absolutely, if everyone watching at home or anyone wants to get involved in the show, the easiest way you can do that is by commenting any questions or comments that you have throughout this episode down below. Like you said, we are live. That's what NOV Live. So we're here in the comment section. I'm watching it the entire show, keeping an eye out, looking at all the questions, and then we're going to get to as many of the questions at the end of the show as we can. So we'll be asking our guests. And like you mentioned, today we're going offshore. So if you have any offshore questions, definitely let us know there, and we'd be happy to get as many as we can answered. And if after today's show you're hankering for some more content, we've actually done another episode on offshore as well as many other topics, and you can watch all past episodes of NOV Live at nov.com/live. So that URL is on the screen right now, nov.com/live. You can go there, watch any past episodes. And if you have a question on any of those episodes, we still want to get that question answered. And you can email us that question at socialmedia@nov.com. So reach out to us there if you have a question on any past episodes. But like I mentioned, if you have a question on today's episode, just comment it down below and we're going to get to as many as we can. And so those are all the different ways how you can ask us your questions. And now it's time for that part of the show where I ask you a question. It's time for our Rig Geek Post of the Week.
Rig Geeks Post of the Week.
All right. And just like now we've mentioned the theme today a couple of times, this goes along with offshore. We are asking you, what was the first offshore oil platform? I'm sorry, when was the first offshore oil platform built? So when was the year? And if you, a little bonus, if you know where and maybe even how deep it was, we'll give you bonus points there to all our rig geeks. But if you think you know the answer to the question on screen, go ahead and comment it below. And at the end of the show, we're going to reveal the answer and reveal those bonus answers as well.
That sounds good. I almost want to add another one and want to know what was the weather like on that date. I don't know if anyone can find it, but I'd be quite interested because who knows? I don't know. I need to challenge our really great viewers. So awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Shelby. Look forward to wrapping around and getting those questions in. So we are going to go ahead and waste no time and go ahead and introduce our guest today. We have Ian Ayling, who is the Chief Sales Officer for the Completion and Production Solutions segment, or CAPS, here at NOV. So Ian, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Michael. Good to see you again.
All right. And for those that wish they could travel out and about but aren't able to, I know I always like to give them a little insight as to where our guests are joining us from. So where are you joining us from today?
I'm still locked down in England, in a place called Wokingham. So about 30 miles from the center of London out to the west.
Well, hopefully you get unlocked. Hopefully no lockdowns. I know. We'll work through it. All right. Well, Ian, appreciate you joining us. And so as I talked about at the top of the program, we're talking about offshore. Really, what we're talking about is NOV One Offshore, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But when we look at the offshore space and specifically NOV's portfolio and what we've been able to contribute to that space, it's really grown over the many decades that we've been apart, and is certainly a force in the industry. Can you maybe give a little snapshot and perspective as to where we are now as we look at that space?
Sure. And I think this part of the challenge for NOV is, there's a sort of a legacy of, we're about rigs and drilling and actually in the sort of completion and production space and the offshore in particular, we've grown dramatically over the last few years and I've got a really significant portfolio of equipment and services that we can offer in that space. So everything from topside processing to turrets and offloading systems, mooring systems, flexible pipes. We're one of the world's largest composite suppliers. We've got fabrication yards. And even then you go into some of the other things like lifting and handling and cranes and some of that sort of marine and construction piece as well. So we've got this exciting portfolio, and that's kind of what's driven this sort of one NOV offshore strategy. Is as we kind of saw the market starting to swing back and the offshore side of the industry is picking up again, and hopefully that momentum really starts to accelerate now. We wanted to make sure that people could actually understand that portfolio that we had and how they can pick the right pieces and put them together in a way that makes sense and adds value for our customers. So it's kind of what's been driving it, and hopefully over the next little while we can kind of build on that for the people watching.
So when you look at NOV's offering, certainly has been well received in many aspects, especially as you look at the equipment provided, and that's traditionally been the approach. But you're talking about the offshore and one offshore offerings. Can you talk about the benefit of having more solutions in that space? How do you and the team approach that and get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think it's, at the end of the day, when we look at all of the pieces that we have, we know that, we're not going to get a single purchase order from the customer because, the NOV equipment, for an offshore opportunity, some of that, the end user might be, one of the super majors, but we're going to be supplying, the mooring system to the FPSO company. We might be supplying the topsides through the shipyard. We might be supplying conductors, conductor connectors to the actual end user. But really, for me, it's about making sure that we're coordinated better, and we can help our customers reduce execution risk, simplify things with things like standardized, simplified terms and conditions. Just simplifying that supply chain for them and making sure that we can align better. So whether it's the fabrication, the scheduling. There's all kinds of ways that we can add value, and potentially if you do bundle more of our services, then we can look at commercially what we can do with some additional discount or what have you, because we know that we can maybe take some cost out by doing a solution type of approach. And it kind of goes to some of the the equipment, as you mentioned, as an equipment supplier, and that's still our bread and butter. That's what we do. But we also design and understand how to apply our equipment. That's something where we feel that we can add a huge amount of value. By talking to us and engaging us early, there's the chance to identify potentially new ways to do things, especially offshore, and maybe using subsea as an example. There's technology that we have which can simplify the subsea architecture, which just in itself can take cost out and potentially make a significant impact to our customers.
When you look at the offshore space, where is it really just really rip roaring and going, and where do you see both that activity, but also where is the growth right now?
Well, I guess you'd have to sort of look towards South America just now. So with Brazil, the number of FPSOs, and for NOV and our offshore portfolio, an FPSO represents a significant opportunity between the topside process, everything from oil and water and solids treatment, gas management, all of these things that we can do. And then you look into the composites, composite pipe work. I think over 90% of the FPSOs out there have got some form of NOV composite pipe work in the solution. And then cranes and some of the other pieces, and obviously the mooring or turrets, depending on where you are, with our APL group. So, that's a huge opportunity. Obviously, Guyana, Suriname, huge amount of growth off, with all the finds down there. That's a massive growth area. But then there's other parts of the world as well. You look at Norway with some of the tax incentives that they've put in place is driving a lot of activity, and we're seeing all over green shoots of activity coming. Maybe a little bit slower. There's still some uncertainty, I guess, around sort of the lag from COVID. But Africa, there's definitely there's a lot of projects there. They just kind of need to get that next step and get to FID and move forward. And then obviously Australia, we're seeing projects moving forward now, which is great. And places like China, there's a lot of activity. So really, there's it's global, and and that's one of the beauties of NOV is that we've got that footprint that can support our customers all over the world. Even things like with the process, we've got our own fabrication, but we can also do it. If local content's an important part, we can do it locally as well, and work with local yards, and deliver for our customers. So it's there's a lot of opportunity out there. I guess the challenge is making sure that after the last year or so, which has been a tough time, and which came on the back of really barely recovering from the downturn from 2015, being able to support and have the resources to actually manage all of that, I think it's going to be an industry challenge over the next couple of years, maybe more.
If you're just joining us, we are talking with Mr. Ian Ayling, the Chief Sales Officer for the Completion and Production Solutions segment here at NOV, or CAPS for short. So we are talking about NOV One Offshore and offshore solutions. So if you have any questions related to the offshore space for Mr. Ayling, he is ready and prepared to take your questions when we get to our Q&A, but feel free to put those in the comments section now, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, and we will try to get to those questions in just a few moments. So next question for you, Ian, is kind of touching on a few items you've alluded to, but I kind of wanted to dive in a little more, and that is the challenges that we know exist for our customers and in the offshore space. Certainly something that I know just in having conversations with you outside of this forum, I know that is constantly on the top of your mind. So just wanted to share with our viewers, what are some things that we're doing to address those challenges?
Oh my goodness! Well, this kind of speaks to the depth of the portfolio that we have, and the number of different touch points we have into our customers' operations. You look from the process side, addressing some of the brownfield challenges. With the downturn over the last few years, and last year in particular, getting more out of existing assets is a huge driver. So that leads to some of the offshore brownfield activities, things like tiebacks. They still make sense, utilizing existing assets, extending their life, and that's where some of the technology that we've introduced, you've got the picture on the screen there of our subsea storage, a really innovative solution, something that we can kind of float in and drop in place and then reuse elsewhere. So that's going through qualification right now. So that's going to be part of the sort of the toolbox for our customers moving forward. And you can see there with a jackup, for some of these marginal fields, you could potentially have a completely movable, reusable solution that once you've drained that particular puddle, move on to the next one. And I think that's the kind of way that we can bring novel solutions and hopefully lower cost solutions to our customers, as they face their challenges. And interestingly as well, kind of fitting one of the themes, when you look at the subsea storage, potentially that could be a lower carbon solution than maybe having an FSU or some sort of floating solution, or concrete tanks or whatever. That's another element that's going to become more and more important to our customers.
I know that one of the areas that I'm sure you're hearing from customers and others alike is in the area of energy transition, or as as I'm starting to say, actually energy addition, kind of adding to the overall energy mix. But as we look at some of those developments, what do you see in kind of your toolkit from the CAPS team that's helping to offer some opportunities here for customers?
God, yeah. Well, I think I agree with you. The whole energy transition, it is just, we've been in transition the whole time, from wooden derricks to where we are today. And I think, I know the answer to the question. And when you see where that, that first offshore platform was versus where we can be today, and the water depths, we're constantly in transition. And I think, when we look at what we're doing today, it's about taking those competencies and technology and skill sets that we have already in the company and apply them to just what's a natural extension. I think somebody said the other day, we do big stuff well, and that's I think that's something that's in the DNA of NOV. So things like offshore wind, we've got Gusto MSC as part of the organization, with their offshore wind installation vessels. As we move into the this sort of floating offshore wind space, the wind turbines are getting bigger. We're talking up to now, I think, 15 megawatts from a single turbine. The installation vessels that are out there and the capability that's out there isn't big enough for these. So designing those and using the skill sets we have, and then the next step from that, with the actual floating, platforms, floating units that we put the turbines on, that fits right into NOV's capability. So whether it's the design, getting them fabricated, the mooring systems that actually hold these things in place, and then some of the fiberglass ballast systems, it's all in house. So we can kind of simplify that supply chain and have an optimal design for our customers. And then it extends further into, you go and you look at hydrogen and CCUS. We've got natural capabilities there, whether it's the process side, where we're putting big process packages on FPSOs and platforms. We've been doing it for years. So that's, it's a slightly different process, but the principles and the technology is very similar, and it just fits our capabilities. And then you extend from that with offloading and the transportation with flexible piping and risers and things like that. It's all already there. So it's not like a massive leap for us to be part of this energy transition. It's using our technology and our portfolio that we already have. So I think it's really exciting. It's just another opportunity, as we move forward, and looking at things like the electrification of the North Sea. There's all kinds of things around that just fit with what we can do. So I think transition is one word. It's just a natural extension, I think, for us, with what we already have at our fingertips.
So, I mean, in listening to you, I know that there's a lot of activity that is going on, a lot of other things that are happening in the business. While I wish this were an all-day conversation, because I certainly enjoy them, we're certainly limited somewhat. But in the time we have left in our time today, could you maybe give me some of those highlights and high points of other things that are happening in the business that have you excited? And I can tell there's a lot.
Yeah, it's just that every different meeting is another direction, and there's so many things going on. It's I guess that's what makes this industry so exciting, and because of the capabilities that we have as a company, we get to go into all these different directions. So what's good right now, I think some of the trends around demanning and trying to reduce the carbon footprint, we do that anyway, with some of the digitization and some of the remote operations work that we're doing. Like I hinted at it with the subsea storage. We can take potentially reduce our customers' carbon footprint. Some of the other technology that we have, composite pipe work. If you look at that as a complete supply chain, comparing it to the metal equivalent, we again can help reduce the carbon footprint, and also potentially help with reducing manning, because you've got less maintenance and repair work and replacement work over the years. Composite pipe's good for 40 years in certain cases and applications. So, there's things like that we do. Whether it's subsea seawater treatment to help with some of the more marginal fields and maximizing the the recovery from these formations. There's just so much. It's we could talk all day. I guess one of the things I would say, I don't know if anybody's got time, but tomorrow the MCE DD technical presentations are going on. I think you can still register online. And we've got two really interesting presentations there. One from our flexible teams, and Jan Retta is going to be talking about advances in flow properties of flexible pipes, and Marius Bjorn from our subsea group is going to be talking about subsea oil storage and export systems to unlock reserves. Those are right at the front of the kind of technology that we can bring to help our customers. So if you've got a few minutes, I'd thoroughly recommend joining MCE and registering and listening in, or I believe you'll be able to get a recording afterwards.
All right, no, that sounds good, and that, I think those are really great points you made. Certainly a lot that's happening, and of course a lot of development and continued innovation happening in the offshore space. So with that, Ian, I want to leave you with the last word before we transition over to Shelby Domain to get questions from our viewers. Any parting thoughts that you have for?
Yeah, I think I'd come back to one of those initial points I made. The industry is recovering. We're building back up. So it's key for our customers to engage early. The sooner you're talking to us, one, you get to hear about the latest technology that we have and incorporate it into your concepts. But two, also just understand some of the supply chain risk. We're seeing, you only have to look at the metal exchanges, and you see the price of steel, and you see the price of some of the exotic materials that we use. Those charts are pretty scary right now. So it's one of the benefits of NOV. We as a big organization, and especially if we do these kind of more solution sort of bundled approach, we have the buying power that potentially we can help reduce costs. But the earlier that we're talking to and understanding those issues and planning and preparing properly, we can have the resources and the supply chain in place to support our customers, because that's ultimately what we're here for.
What we're here for. You said it. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I've been speaking with Ian Ayling, the Chief Sales Officer for CAPS, the Completion and Production Solutions segment here at NOV. And while I've thoroughly enjoyed posing questions to you, our audience has had their questions of their own. So I'm going to get out of the way and get Shelby Domain in here to get those questions answered. So Shelby, take it away.
All right. And I did, before I get to the questions, I wouldn't be a good social media person if I didn't mention that if anybody wants to register for the MCEDD show tomorrow, they can do that. We actually shared the link. So if they just scroll a little bit down on LinkedIn where you're watching, you'll be able to see where you can register for MCEDD. So I had to mention that, I had to throw it out there.
No, thanks for doing that. That's good.
But on to the question. So we actually got this first question comes from Laura Stadler, which I was excited to see her name. She actually was a guest on Inside Out in the last few weeks. So really great conversation we had with her. And her question today is, she was asking if there are any developments you could talk to in the world of FPSO and CO2.
Ooh, FPSO, I guess, not sure in what direction. I mean, for us, the biggest opportunity is, putting together that topside package. We could, from everything from produced water, to seawater treatment, then the oil stream, the gas stream. NOV, we have all the different pieces of the puzzle and putting it together. So that's one element. I guess CO2. Certainly, there's some good work going on with our flexible pipe group. Being able to handle that, 'cause that's a challenge certainly for some of the applications in South America and other parts of the world. Not sure what else to say in terms of CO2. I mean, is that around? I'm not sure. Carbon footprint as well. Is that where that was going? Or?
Well, I think if she's still watching, she can type in a clarification. I think.
Yeah, or we can circle back around and get in touch.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a specific angle there, I can connect you to the right person, Laura.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then so this next question comes from Humberto on LinkedIn, and he was wondering, what kind of energy source do the offshore installations use?
It depends. There's everything from diesel gensets to power from shore, and in the not too distant future, there's quite a lot of people looking at potentially using floating offshore wind. Part of the challenge is obviously managing that latency is if there's no wind, but with some of the battery technology and some of the other things that we can do, potentially that can be overcome, and then you've got a really sustainable way to power offshore facilities and also reduce our carbon footprint. So it's as we move forward, that's clearly the theme, and we're looking at technologies around that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. This next one from Rita, I think it's a really great question, and it's a little long, so everyone, I'm going to read it. For the opportunities to support customers in energy transition projects, excuse me, is it expected to have one BU or segment inside NOV, like we talked about Gusto MSC, dedicated to those initiatives, or are we going to have projects with different BUs working together depending on the scope?
Good question. I guess going forward, I don't know, and I couldn't comment on how it's going to be structured. Right now, it makes sense that the competence and the technology is within the business units, and for the different areas of the energy transition we're putting the right pieces together. And for me, it's just like we would do for any offshore application. If we're working on a MOPU type of thing, a mobile offshore production unit, we'd have Gusto involved because they can design the jack up. We'd have maybe our Wellstream guys, for some of the sort of initial fluid treatment. We'd have fiberglass involved. There may be risers. So we put the right pieces together for the application. And I think for the energy transition, when I look at like floating offshore wind as an example, we've got the Gusto design, we've got APL's mooring systems, we've got BLM's connectors, maybe Norsun for the ballasting system, our fiberglass group for walkways, handrails, and things like that. So putting those pieces together in ways that make sense, and creating a sort of a project team, it's I guess the most sensible way to do it right now. And a lot of these energy transition, you look at CCUS, we're looking at biogas, all of these, it takes pieces of the organization in a slightly different mix from what we would do maybe some of our traditional business. So, I think that's just the way it makes sense right now is, take the right pieces, put them together in a way that makes sense, and then, approach the customer as a single, team for that particular opportunity or application.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I did want to clarify for our viewers, I have a bad habit of sometimes saying an acronym and not explaining what I mean. So when we say BU, what we mean is business unit, and those are our groups within NOV that have different product families and brands within them. So apologize for using some internal jargon there, folks, but that's what we meant by BU. And for this last question, I want to get you to answer, Ian, comes from a user on LinkedIn, and they're wondering, how do you see the subsea water treatment process changing in maybe the next 3 to 5 years timeframe, or do you see it changing?
Well, I guess that's another one of the beauties of NOV is we've got different options for our customers. Traditionally water treatment's done on a platform or on the FPSO, with a traditional package module, but we also have a seabed solution where we can take seawater and treat it on the seabed, ready for injection or potentially taking it onto the surface for pumping. We've got all the different options here. There's with our Seabox subsea seawater treatment, it's been a bit of a slow burn, developing that technology, but there's some really interesting studies going on right now. You see a picture there. So it's always tough when you bring this kind of technology out in a climate where the market is, has moved towards shale and onshore and less subsea and deep water projects. But as they come back, I think this will find its place. It's a really cool technology that just gives our customers a different option. At the end of the day, if people look at a Seabox and decide, I want to do it on the platform, great. We've got that technology. And vice versa. If space is a limit, or you want to put the seawater treatment out at the wells for a subsea development, if you've got a long tieback, we've got the solution. So talk to us. We would we'll do an assessment, and if one option or the other makes more sense, we'll support it either way. Because that's what we're about. Making sure we get the right solution deployed. It's going to make the best value for our customers.
All right. Well, thanks, Ian. That's been really insightful, and it's it never gets old hearing all of the developments that are happening, and certainly the NOV One Offshore initiative in space is certainly one to be excited about. So for those that are looking for additional information, I know that you and the team working hard to provide that information. Our websites become more of a critical communication tool in conversations like this than before. So where can viewers and potential customers and those interested go to find more information?
I'm waiting for Shelby to pop up the link.
Well,
there you go.
Sure.
See,
there it
right
is. I know the Shelby magic, right?
There we go. No, have a look. There's a lot of really good information on there. We recognize that NOV can be a pretty complicated beast to understand. So we've tried to put the pieces that apply for offshore in one place. At the end of the day, we'll direct you to the right technical people, for those more difficult questions. But to get an overview. We've developed a new animation, the offshore wheel, that just kind of in about, I think it's about a minute and a half, kind of gives you an overview of what we can contribute to an offshore development. And it's quite staggering the first time you watch that, just how many different parts of a development we touch. So please take a look, and or if that doesn't answer your questions, get in touch with me. I'm easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn, and you're
a LinkedIn you should have a LinkedIn expert badge. I don't know, but no, that sounds great. So NOV.com/offshore production, and of course can connect with you directly on LinkedIn as well. And so of course, you being our guest, Ian Ayling, the Chief Sales Officer for the Completion and Production Solutions segment here at NOV. So Ian, thank you for the conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great as always, and really enjoyable.
All right. Well, we are going to get back over to Shelby to get our Rig Geek Post of the Week question answered. Thanks for that lower third magic that you somehow did. I don't know how you did it, Shelby, but we don't need to give away the secret sauce. All right. But what we do need to give away is the answer to today's Rig Geek Post of the Week. So for those that may have missed it, let's have it one more time.
All right, there it is. It's on screen now. We asked our Rig Geeks, when was the first offshore oil platform built? And we did get some good guesses. I didn't see the exact answer in the comments, but I know our Rig Geeks out there, I bet they knew it. They just, it was a typo or something. I know they knew it. And then for bonus points, we did want to ask where and maybe how deep it was, if anyone knew that. And so the answer we're going to show now is it was in 1937 is when that was built. It was a 100 meter by 50 meter platform, just under 2 kilometers offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. And this was my mind blowing thing. It was in waters as deep as 4 meters. Yeah. I mean, now think how deep we can go. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Humble beginnings.
All right. Wow, man, that's a good one. So if folks want to challenge you or debate you, I'm sure you're willing to have that conversation in the comment section. I can already sense some folks saying, "Hey, whoa!" So let's have a great conversation there, right?
Yep, I try to research, but I will admit defeat to our Rig Geeks.
Well, they've shown me the door many a time, and I'm happy to be corrected, because we want to make sure that all the conversation and info is correct here. But no, that's great. I appreciate it. Well, Really good. And before I let you go, Shelby, I also wanted to mention, I know that Ian talked about the offshore production website, but there's also a LinkedIn page that visitors or viewers or customers can go to engage as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a LinkedIn page for subsea production systems. And if you want to find it, we've tagged it in the content of this. If you're watching on LinkedIn, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, just head over to LinkedIn, search subsea production systems. You'll see our logo. You can click it there. And they keep that super up to date with all things subsea, but also offshore. And so it's a really great source of information. But if you are watching on LinkedIn, just go up to the copy and you'll see it subsea production systems tagged there in the post.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Shelby. And certainly a thanks to all of our viewers and colleagues, friends, and customers that joined us today on our NOV Live episode today. Again, our guest was Ian Ayling, the Chief Sales Officer for CAPS. Our social media specialist is Shelby Dumaine, and our production crew is Paul Dufio and Wei-Han Lin. So on behalf of all of us here at NOV, thank you for watching and for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.